This is the Swarm and Shoot Football Show with me, Manny Matsakis, as we kick off Season 2. We've been fortunate because we've had a few good interviews. We bring Lynn Grohl on here, and he's able to interview some of our players. And we've got a lot coming up in this upcoming season. And this Swarm and Shoot Football Show is brought to you by Big B Coffee, which I've got right here. And it's right across campus here on North Clinton Street. Get the finest coffee beverages in Defiance, as well as great pastries and breakfast sandwiches to start off your day. And for most of us, we also get a pick-me-up in the afternoon by heading across the street to see Sue and everybody over at Big B Coffee. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, BSN Sports. Rob Held, Jim Garris, and the crew over here, the sales team, are the professionals that you definitely need to get in touch with to get your gear. All the DC gear. If you're a high school program out there listening to this, get in touch with these guys and they will help you out. They do a fantastic job with high schools, colleges, businesses in the area. Can get whatever type of apparel they need customized just for their business. So I know Rob does a great job for us. Jim is our rep that I see virtually every week of the year, and it's outstanding customer service.
Welcome back to the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. Joined again by Defiance College head coach Manny Matsakis. We're going to talk some recruiting today, Coach.
Yes, we are.
It's been a different year. I actually was talking to Coach Jensen this morning a little bit on another topic, and just kind of over at Manchester, and was talking about how difficult recruiting has been this year because it's been hard to get into schools. Where are you kind of at here as we approach the middle point of May?
Well, we're fortunate. As we talked in a previous episode, we were given the green light, so to speak, to stay overnight and leave the area. And when we did that, Chris Shank had put together a plan of action to get our assistant coaches out and all of us out in one way or another. And the plan is such that we have been going to a lot of the players in Ohio and in the tri-state area. So we feel that we've got good relationships with those players, and a lot of them are getting ready to deposit and close in, and put their commitment as a Yellow Jacket. And it helps for us to get out to these other regions of the country and have those in-person contacts. Because just like you had mentioned, it's like, look, it's one thing to text. It's another thing to call, and we do that, and we've got them excited about the direction of the program, but it's a totally different animal when you can get in the living room or meet them in a coffee shop or in the weight room, and that's what we're about to do.
Yeah. Are you further behind than what you would normally be middle of May as opposed to pre-COVID years?
Yeah, I think we are. I think everybody is.
Everybody's in the same boat.
Yeah. The good thing is we've got a very good list of players that we have been working on for well over a year. I mean, these guys, we started last spring on this year's class. So we were talking to them as juniors, and then other guys have sprouted up all over the country. And I think with that being said, I feel confident that we will have another very good recruiting class this year to go with the guys that we're retaining on the current roster. And that is exciting to me. If we can pull out other class talent-wise to what we brought in last year, then I think now we're in a position to compete every week and be able to do what we ultimately want to do, and that's build get ourselves to a point where we're a championship football program. And I think I see that light at the end of the tunnel on that.
When do you start looking at juniors? Would have that been last fall?
Already.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at juniors now for the next year's campaign. Yeah.
Guys.
Now other guys do show up, and we've realized that, as you're in the process, but because you're looking at them, then they'll refer, hey, here's this guy playing at this school, here's my friend. And then the database, the sooner you start, the more peripheral guys you can get. And I think our key thing is that because we are a coast-to-coast recruiting strategy, so to speak, that we have this opportunity where some others that are only, in Ohio, or only in the tri-state area, or only within a earshot, I think it limits your pool. Because there are, in Ohio alone, there's so many small colleges, and they got to pass a bunch of them to get here on campus. So we do get good players from Ohio, but it's a lot. I think it's more exciting for a lot of these players to travel 5-6 states away, a couple thousand miles, and come play in an area where they feel like, hey, we're part of a great turnaround, and we're going to establish it.
Yeah. Ballpark it for us. When you're looking at the juniors, seniors for that year, how many kids are you looking at if you have an idea, Coach?
Well, I'd say around 1,200.
Okay.
And then we keep tapering it down by contacts and film evaluations and so forth. When you start looking at that kind of a number, I mean, right now we have our top 300. That's where we're going out to go see right now. And those are the top 300 young men that are actively engaged with us in conversation, that are on the cusp of making their decision at some point around mid-June is what I'm thinking. A lot of the decisions will be made into this month, mid-June. So, for instance, we know right now we're sending various coaches out to different markets to recruit mass together, our posse recruiting strategy. And so we're heavy in Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas are some of the primary big ones we're going to hit. And then New York, New Jersey is starting to sprout up as a really good area. And when I say New York, New Jersey, I'm talking about the state of New Jersey and New York City, not upstate New York as much. So we're looking at that. And then we do have a significant number of players from California on the list as well. So it's like getting the opportunity to get out and drive or fly and stay for an extended period of time to see these guys we've been talking to will help, because a lot of places don't do that. And I think the opportunity to do that can really help us in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I was looking at a graphic I saw somebody put on social media where all the NFL guys have came from in like the last 5 years, and it was the South was twice as many as what. And now you're not bringing any NFL guys here, Hopefully you do, but maybe you will. I don't know. But
you don't know.
Just to show you kind of where the talent is, it seems like, is the South.
It is, and it's heavy in the South, and part of it is, the weather's great. They can train year round, and they do have spring ball. They have in Florida. They've got jamboree games and all that. Like in the month of May, that's why we're getting down there to watch some prospects for the next year. So as we're closing on those top 300 to decide which ones we want to offer the roster spot to, because we can't bring them all in, and then we'll find ones for next year, and that's where that big list will start to accumulate, and we'll work that as well throughout the season, as we get closer and closer, to that next 2022 campaign, which is right around the corner.
Yeah. The pipeline, the relationships that you form, that's probably big as anything in this recruiting world.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing we have going, and we've been fortunate because we've been recruiting that way since I arrived on campus. I mean, we've been building these relationships, and we had relationships from being at other schools as coaches. We know certain people out there, and I think like this podcast is powerful for us. The views are off the scale, so a lot of recruits, a lot of parents, they want to hear about and see this program. So when they go to the website or they subscribe, it's something that is a niche for us, because I don't see anybody else doing this on a regular basis. They might occasionally, here's a YouTube deal or something. Whatever, they whip something out on social media. But the consistency, which is what recruiting is all about, is so important. So as we're building this thing up, having a place in the media world for them to go to like this is invaluable. I mean, I get, a lot of emails coming back to me about this podcast, that podcast, and some from boosters, some from alums, but a whole lot of them from parents. And that's the lion's share that I get. Hey, it's exciting. I can't wait for my son to come play for you guys. And that's important, because I believe that when you're looking at recruiting and you're in Northwest Ohio, which is a great football area. I mean, you look at high school football, I mean, you're the expert in this area. And you look at it, it's like it's important. And other places where there might be good football players, they just want to go where it's important. And when all this thing opens up and the stadium opens up, I think we'll have record crowds in the fall. And that will be even more beneficial to us as we continue to move toward championship level football.
How many returning guys do you expect to come back when camp opens up in August, if you have a ballpark number?
Yeah, right now? It's like a twofold question. I mean, one part is the guys that were on the roster. We got seniors that graduate and all this. I would say in the 70s, which is bigger than some rosters I've had without any recruiting class.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and there's about we were going over a list of 10 to 15 additional guys that were here like in 2019 that now want to come back. And they're like, Coach, we want to come back. Maybe they're home, they're working, they're doing whatever. So that's another entry of a guy that might be a year or two older. And some of these guys started for us in 2019. They're talking about, hey, I want to come back and play. They stay in touch because I think they sense that family atmosphere on campus, the players, the chemistry, the culture, and so forth. And so there's another group of guys that could be there. So you could be, returners in the mid-'80s, which would be fantastic. And then you bring in some good players with them, then who knows?
What kind of a freshman class are you looking at number-wise? Because you don't need as many numbers maybe this year. Are you more selective? Take me through that a little bit.
We're definitely more selective than we might have been. Than we were the first 2 years. So it's highly selective by position. That's why when I say roster spots, it's like, hey, we only have so many spots for a receiver, let's say, where we might be returning a dozen guys or more. And then so if a guy gets offered a roster spot as a receiver, he's very, very good. And we expect him to come in and compete immediately. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, we are planning to play 4 or maybe 5 JV games. So by doing that, that I love it, because those are games played early in the season, and it gives us the opportunity to see guys play and bump them up, because that's usually once you have a good JV program, as like Mount Union has, and they play 10 games, they don't bump them up so much. They're just doing it for experience. Here, we're looking to take a look at a guy over a few weeks and say, all right, now we're in a conference play. It's time to step up, and you're going to play now. So we almost use like a preseason for guys that may have less college reps, to see how quickly we can get them to move up. And so that's why we'll bring in a few more. And obviously, roster size is the number one thing. There's a sweet spot there. We want to be around 130, give or take, So it's just you just got to do the math and figure out how many you want to bring in. And I think most importantly, if we offer a roster spot, they're a good player. We're not afraid to bring in more guys if it makes our team better. So I think that's the key with this. And you look at them and say, can they develop and play for us sooner? Because we're looking for guys that can play quickly.
Yeah. Last thing, what would you say to recruits watching this? What is happening with Defiance College football and the future that is kind of rolling along here?
Well, I would say watch the film, see the improvement. The games are online. You start to notice that, our offense and defense have made great strides. Our kicking game is about to make significant strides, because that's a critical part of this for both sides of the ball. And then just notice that our players are coming back. and they're coming back because they are excited about the opportunity that they can compete with teams in our league, where before that wasn't the case, So it's like, hey, come here, be part of something special, or go somewhere else and read about it, because that's really what's going to happen. We're on a collision course to do this, and I think if you're a really good player, you need to want to be a Yellow Jacket, because it's going to give you that opportunity. Because if you end up developing and become an amazing player through all the things that we do here, and you think you're a next level guy, you know what? They'll find you. That NFL draft, a couple weeks ago, there were numerous. There's a pretty decent number of D3 players that went. Small college players, quite a few. So you look at that and say, hey, anybody can do it. And I'm speaking from experience. I played Division III, and I was the 200th draft pick of the Philadelphia. I think 200th draft pick of the draft in 1984. So that was pretty cool, and it can happen anywhere. I didn't play college football with the thought of I was going to get drafted in the National Football League. But a lot of it is like, when you get there, what do you do with your time? How hard do you work? How smart do you work? And and it can happen, it certainly can happen, because I lived it, so I think there's something there for all recruits to take a look at. And, everything from get your college degree, you might be the first one in your family. This is a great place to do that, all the way to, have the opportunity to play young and get a lot of reps, which in the end, that's why those guys get drafted. They didn't have to sit behind someone for 3 years and wait, and maybe they didn't get the attention and all the details they needed early in their career. I mean, I started and played every game of college football. I don't know that I would have had I have gone to another school, a bigger school. I might have to sit behind somebody for a couple of years, so I didn't develop like I could have, I think. So I think that's the beauty of coming to a place like Defiance College.
You got an NFL guy's picture hanging right outside your office, Coach.
Yeah, Ben Davis.
Yeah. Cleveland Brown.
No doubt. Rookie of the Year, National Football League, led the league in punt returns. Yeah, tremendous player, And I think that in and of itself, that's a great story. We need to get him on the podcast. I mean, I've heard stories of how he got on the team. It's pretty legendary. But, so we have that.
Well, there was, you remember Phyllis Snyder before you got here was a legend. You've heard about Phyllis. And
sure.
Her husband, Pickle, as he was known, was a World War II. He was a gunner. The ball turret gunner in the bottom of those, what were they, B-52s or whatever they were, and they wanted him to go to the NFL. The Rams came here to Defiance College, and he played here back in that era too of the Ben Davis era, and they wanted him to go to the NFL, but they didn't make much money back then.
No.
So he just wanted to go out in the working world.
Yeah.
So it's happened before here that the NFL has shown interest. So.
Sure. Yeah, and we got scouts calling, asking about our players already. They'll find you. Don't trust me. They will find you.
Yeah.
And what's great is now, finally, we've got scouts asking about our players. They want to come and, put them through workouts and all that. So that's just on the horizon. But ultimately, you got to play great. You got to dominate at this level to get a shot at the next one.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Love it.
I want to thank you for joining us on the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes. Give us a rating, comment on the show. If you'd like to get all kinds of updates, go to our website at swarmandshoot.com, where you will be up to date on all of our podcasts with audio and YouTube versions on there as well. See feature articles on our current players and alumni, along with updates of what's going on in the program. Take a minute and subscribe with your email to receive these regular alerts every time we update the website.